The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, good morning and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm your host, CJ, and I'm sorry to say that Chip will not be with us this morning. He's currently in Boston, Massachusetts at a meeting. So you get to look at this ugly mug for the next half hour. So, how was your weekend? I'll tell you right now, mine was quite interesting. As usual, I wrote the weekend flush. Got out some of the information that I thought was necessary, and I started looking at some of the things that were important to me over the past week. One of which, as those of you who get the weekend flush know, is the fact that we're already past the election. It's 2 weeks in the past. We're done. Move on. Get away. It's over and done with. It was 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. We know that the ballot question passed. We don't need to have it rubbed in people's faces. We don't need to keep beating up on it. But again, we got to keep beating it up. Local media just cannot stop talking about that. I mean, there was even an article in the paper this past week about the fact that the North End carried the vote. No kidding. You think we didn't know that? The people who have told that people who have not that they've got to pay for it. And this is what we get. 16.6% of the registered voters of Fall River came out and voted. That was piss poor. And you're all complaining about, well, it passed, I can't afford this. Well, did you go out and vote? If you went out and vote, you got a place to complain. But if you didn't go out and vote, you don't have a place to complain. And that's the big problem that we have. People don't realize that it's important. Now, driving in to the studio this morning, I was listening to one of the local radio stations, and they have a new talk show host who turned around and said, I think that the people of Fall River are just tired. When it comes to Fall River politics, they're just tired. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's why you have the same problems over and over and over again. How many people out there voted for Leo Pelletier? Put your hand up. Number one, you're silly if you put your hand up because nobody can see you. And number two, why did you vote for Leo Pelletier? Because he gave you a chow mein sandwich? What has he really done for the city of Fall River? Not for individuals. Not because he fixed a pothole in front of your house. Not because he reached out to DCM and got them to come by and pick up your trash. That's his job. That's not even his job. He's a city councilor. His job is city finances, legislation. And it's nice that he's willing to do that. And it's nice that every city councilor is willing to do that for you. You even have some previous city councilors that still do that for you. But you can do it for yourself. Pick up the phone, make that phone call, call DCM, tell them, I got a pothole in front of my house. Can somebody come by and fix it? It's a big pothole. It's damaging my front end. Can you come by and fix it? Thank you very much. Goodbye. Click. And it'll get done. Maybe it won't get done right away. Maybe it'll take a day or two, but it will get done because if they know about it, then they can address it. If they don't know about it, they can't address it. So remember, you get what you pay for. You get what you ask for. If you didn't vote, this is why you've got the representation you have. This is why the ballot question passed. This is why your taxes are going up, because you didn't take the time out of your day. And I heard it from several people who didn't vote. Oh, I had a busy day. I didn't think about it. It's not important. Well, guess what? Don't complain to me about it, because I'm not going to listen. Marc Dion did it again. You got to give the man credit. He calls him out the way he sees it. Welcome to Fall River, city of poor financial standing. No kidding. Is this a big secret or what? And I love it. He says, and the headline is never, state says everything is fabulous in Fall River, or city government doesn't know what to do with all the money. Or even Fall River, where everyone can read. It's funny, but it's sad and true. You know, in his article, he talks about the recent report from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute, which said that Bristol County is the second worst county in Massachusetts for health care and for health statistics. The worst is Hampton County. So if Fall River's eating, you know, lard and chorizo and chips and cassoulet and all those high fatty foods, what the hell are they eating out in Springfield? Because whatever they're eating in Springfield, it's going to be unbelievable. But, you know, Mark said something interesting. He says the report says that Bristol County, Massachusetts is a bunch of poverty-stricken, chain-smoking fat people who get up in the morning and eat a big pile of salt with lard sauce. Basically, it's true. Why do people in poverty-stricken communities like Fall River, and Mark made it very clear in his column that, you know, Fall River's numbers are probably going to be much worse than the county. But why are poverty-stricken counties, communities like Fall River, worse off health-wise? Because they have to eat the poorest quality foods available, and they have the poorest habits. They're chain smoking. How many times have you just driven down the street and you have 4 cars around you, 3 of them are smoking, and they got the windows up while they're smoking with their kids in the back seat? They can't afford to buy fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, fresh meat, so they buy processed products. They buy hot dogs. They buy bologna. They buy ham. They buy luncheon meats. And this creates the problem for them. And that's why we eat bad things and we die early. We as a community need to realize that our outcomes are in our own hands. When you go to the ballot box, you need to ask yourself, if I vote for Pamela Liberté LeBeau, is she going to vote for higher taxes for me once again, like she did when she shifted the tax factor to me? When you go to the ballot box and you cast that ballot, ask yourself the question, is Leo Pelletier going to work for me, or is he going to give me another high tax factor increase? If I vote for Derek Viveris, is he even going to open his mouth? Because he doesn't say a word as it is. Now, interestingly enough, in Mark's column, he says that if you move out of Fall River to anywhere else, you'll be better off. And even if you move to New Bedford, you'll at least be even. But you'll still be better than Fall River. And of course, Mark has to talk about the upcoming State of the City address, which I believe will be tomorrow. And we all know what a State of the City address is. It's a rah, 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 sis, boom, bah, look at Fall River, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all a political statement. It's a political speech. It's to rally the troops to say that Fall River's great, Fall River's wonderful, look at what I did, look at what I did. You didn't do anything. You haven't done a thing, Mr. Mayor. Are you going to, and you know, Mark said it clearly, you know, are you going to open up your speech with Fall River is a city of hardworking families? Or are you going to open with Fall River is a city of city of poor financial standing? You're not going to open with poor financial standing. You're not going to say Fall River's piss poor. You're not going to say Fall River has a high crime rate. You're not going to say Fall River has a high drug use rate, a lot of opiate addiction, a lot of opiate overdoses. You're not going to say those things. Yeah, and as I said, you're not going to say you have a high crime rate. Look at how high the crime rate is. The high crime rate is so high that they're going to the police station and they're breaking down the windows with baseball bats. That's how funny it is. You got to admit, Fall River is a world all in its own. You have to wonder, is it all really worth it? Another big problem that Fall River has is economic development. We have nobody doing it. Or do we have somebody doing it? We've heard that Kathy Ann is doing it. But then we hear that Marc Dion's doing it over in... Michael Dion's doing it over in CDA. So who's doing it? Kathy Ann's getting a stipend because she's doing it. Mike Dion's supposedly doing it. But we haven't got anything. And this again is another pissing match. This coming from little Lord Fauntleroy up on the 6th floor, who thinks that if he doesn't get his way, he's going to make your life miserable. That's not how you run a city. You don't run a city with threats, indignation. You use a little bit of diplomacy, a little bit of your political savvy. People are getting tired. And they know that it's not for the better. They know that things aren't working out best for us. Now, the mayor has fired the Fall River Office of Economic Development and fired Kenny Fiola. I've never been a big fan of Froed. I've never been a big fan of Ken Fiola, but he was at least doing something. Now we have somebody doing nothing. Or do we have anybody doing anything? Kenny's office still gets phone calls asking, well, we want to come to Fall River. What do we do? And he's like, oh, you got to call the administration. Call the mayor's office. I don't have anything to do with that anymore. And we have businesses in Fall River being approached by other communities from down south, South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida. But Ohio, they're even getting phone calls from Ohio offering them tax incentives, lower utility costs, lower health insurance costs. Just move your business to Ohio, where we have, ready for this, hard-working families, hard-working individuals. Isn't that what Fall River used to have? Not anymore. Not anymore, we don't. Now everyone in Fall River doesn't want to work. The millennials seem to have just come to a point where they don't care about work anymore. But when you look at the fact that businesses are approaching our existing businesses, I should say communities are approaching our existing businesses and offering them all of these, how soon is it going to be before they just finally turn around and say, you know what, I can't afford the taxes anymore. As much as I love Fall River and as much as I'm invested in Fall River, I may have to leave. If they're looking to expand and they can't get what they need in Fall River, maybe they'll expand somewhere else. And what's the first thing they always ask for in Fall River? Another TIF. And who pays for the TIF? You and I do. And what are we getting for it? Nothing. Nothing. Maybe a couple of more jobs. We're not getting any more taxes. We're not getting any tax revenue because we gave them a TIF, which writes off the tax revenue. But let's cut the crap. This fight between Froed and the city has gotten so bad that Mike Dion in CDA and Ken Fiola in Froed both filed for the same grant to create opportunity zones in Fall River. And they sent that up to the governor because the governor has the authority on deciding where those opportunity zones are going to go. What do you think? Is Fall River worthy of an opportunity zone? Are we worthy of some tax money, some grant money to bring some businesses to, say, our waterfront? Or do you think, like I think, that those opportunity zones are only going to benefit the mayor's political hacks? Or in this case, as the definition portrays, a political whore. Somebody who does everything politically necessary to get where they want to get and get what they want. Politicians are usually referred to sometimes as political whores. But you can refer to people in the community. What's your trust in this administration? What's your trust in city government? That's the big question. That's the big question that I and many of you have. How much can you trust your government? If you can't trust your government, what can you expect? When you have two departments or two different organizations applying for the same grant money because neither side talks to the other, don't you think that creates a problem? This is one city. And there are many facets to this city. We have neighborhoods, we have different departments in city government. The problem is nobody knows what's going on. The right doesn't communicate to the left, and the left doesn't communicate to anyone else. So when you are looking at projects that can come forward for this city, to benefit this city, what message are you sending to the governor of this state when two different organizations in the city file for the same grant program and neither one of them knows what the other one's filing for? One's filing for Route 79 and the waterfront. The other one's filing for different districts in the city. That's creating opportunity zones. Oddly enough, most of the officials in Fall River only found out about the opportunity zones earlier in the month. And the deadline to apply is Wednesday. Froed didn't want Fall River to be left out. Mike Dion didn't want Fall River to be left out. But neither one of them talked about who was going to do it. Now in Massachusetts, the government will accept the applications and then name up to 138 census tracts in the state as opportunity zones. That's 25% of the 550 low-income census tracts in the state. There's 351 cities and towns, and there's 550 low-income census tracts. Does that speak volumes? And Fall River is the lowest of the low income. Now, what's this grant supposed to bring us? The grant is coming out of a federal program to keep the corporate profits in the country, as opposed to it going out of the country. But for a city like Fall River, it's to keep those corporate profits in Fall River, instead of sending them to Ohio or South Carolina. Is Ohio and South Carolina important to you? I know it can be important to me. If I want to go on vacation, if I want to go see something important, if I want to go to Myrtle Beach, if I want to go golfing, South Carolina is a great place to go golfing. But when it comes to jobs, I want to see them in my city. Do you want to see them in your city? It helps if people can talk to each other. And we have a lot of different ways to communicate. We have email, we have text messaging, we have face-to-face, which occurs very rarely now. People have forgotten how to speak to each other in person. It's, SMH and WTF and WTW and SMH, and, nobody knows what's going on because they're used to conversing in text messaging. This is how they converse. And yes, Patrick, we know Hampton County, Springfield, home of the Golden Corral. Something we don't have in Fall River. And I don't know if we'll ever get one. They had an opportunity at one point, but they didn't think it was important enough for us. It's kind of hard to keep track of all these messages from all these people during the show when you're on your own. And just think about this for a moment. We need these jobs. We need these opportunity zones. Fall River is 8% unemployment. Over 8% unemployment. We went up 4 points this past month. The state stayed flat at 4%. We went up to 8%. Do people in Fall River want to work? You tell me. Higher unemployment rates? Kind of questionable, don't you think? Makes for an interesting day when you start thinking of things that way. Now, some people have already said, well, you've got seasonal unemployment, there's no construction, the construction's been down for a while. We've had a pretty tough winter this year. And even that, there are construction jobs from the pretty tough winter because they got to make up for all the damage caused by some of these storms. I know, I felt it. And I'm still trying to work that out. But it gets to be very interesting. The Fall River School Department. Superintendent Malone is seeking a $149.5 million school budget. That's a little more than half of what it's going to cost to build the new school. But this is just the annual budget for the school. Now, he's saying that this budget is got 1% more than the minimum net school spending. And he said that included in this budget is a maintenance program, and they're bringing it up from 1% to 2%. And they have to do it slowly because they can't bring it all in all together. Well, guess what? The recommendation is 2.5%. Knock it up a little bit more. If you're in for a penny, in for a pound. We already heard from Ken Pacheco last week that all these new schools that we spoke about during the election process that were having problems, now they have acknowledged that these schools did have problems. The Spencer Borden alone had $77,000 in roof repairs done since that school was built. Some of it, most of it was done under warranty. Well, I'll tell you right now, if I'm having warranty work done, I'm not going to take it back to the same people that did it in the first place. Bring me somebody else to do that work. Because if you couldn't get it right the first time, what's going to say you're going to get it right the second time? Now, Superintendent Malone feels very good about the budget. Now, his budget's out 2 months ahead of schedule, which is kind of nice. We get an idea of where we're going to be at. He likes it that we're spending, again, 1% more than minimum net school spending. So the mayor will talk about that, I'm sure, in his State of the City address tomorrow. And Malone says that his budget sustains progress for reducing class sizes in grades K through 3. And creates a new line item for preventative maintenance, reducing operating expenses across the board by about $378,000 and expands programs for English language learners. Okay, wonderful. But maybe we should have had the maintenance in place years ago. But the thing is that this budget's going to be tight. because we have health insurance increases, salary increases, and transportation costs, not to mention an estimated 3% increase in the percentage that charter schools will demand of the district's net school spending, which is something else that I think we forget about, that even though that they're not part of the Fall River school system, the Fall River school system has to pay for those schools. Now, the school is required to spend $148,117,901 in net school spending. And that's directly related to educating students. The City Council would have to approve the additional money sometime before the next fiscal year begins on July 1st. According to Malone, Fall River's expected foundation budget for fiscal year 2019 is $148,117,901 million. That is the amount that under state law it is required to spend to provide an adequate education to the city students. Even spending this money, our students aren't getting an adequate education. I've worked in higher ed. I've worked at the college level. I've worked in the high school level. I've worked in a vocational school. And I know that when kids are coming out of school and they can't read, when they can't write, when they can't do basic arithmetic, that they've got to spend an extra year or two just catching up to where other people are. You're not telling me that we're doing a good job. When our high school is a level 3 high school, we're not doing a good job. And you're not going to tell me, oh, well, the building's not doing good. Oh, please, oh, there's buckets around. No. If children want to learn, they will learn. If teachers are going to teach, they will teach. Somebody's not doing something somewhere. And it's time for somebody to put their finger down on the button and say, you're the one doing it wrong. Get off your butt and do it right. When you have arbitration going on and we're losing those arbitrations because other communities in our quote-unquote universe aren't paying as much, you have to say to yourself, how much are we paying these people? We know that people are getting 50% pay raises if they work for the mayor, if they're his political hacks, if they're in his right pocket or left pocket, if they're kissing his proverbial butt. I wanted to say something else, but I decided not to. Times they are a-changing, and I don't think they're changing for the better. The only way Fall River is going to start to get better is to take a chance on those people who are running for office who have never held an office before. And those people who are running to be reelected, you get rid of them. What has Joe Camara really done for the city of Fall River? Not for you personally, for the city of Fall River. What has he truly done? What has some of the school committee members done for the children in the school system? What has the city council done for the people, for the taxpayer, to give them some tax relief? Has anyone done anything to give anyone tax relief? I think not. And that's the big problem. You were elected, to our elected politicians, you were elected to represent me, the people of Fall River. And if you're not doing that, I don't know who is. Thanks for watching. Hopefully Chip will be back on Wednesday and we'll have something to talk about the State of the City address. Have a great day and remember, stay angry.